Hey everyone, good evening. Welcome to October's edition of All Access Belize. We'd like to welcome you. I'm your host, David Kafka, and my co-host is Serena Kafka, or Serena Hoffman, excuse me. I still say Serena Kafka. How are you, dear?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Unfortunately, our police officer got called in for a NEMO meeting, and so he couldn't make it. So we'll get him booked for October or November or December. But not sure if you heard, there is a tropical storm out there. Looks like it's gonna be not bad for here, but the police and the fire and everybody has to kind of prepare. So Serena and I are going to just take your questions, and if we don't have any questions, we'll end early. So go ahead and put your questions in the question and answer box, or that way we'll see it better than the chat box. So again, I'm your host. I'm coming to you live from San Pedro, Ambergris Caye. I am in my sales office at the Mahogany Bay Resort and Beach Club. It's a Curio by Hilton. And Serena's coming to you from Deltona, Florida. So how was the hurricane, Serena?
It was pretty bad. Fort Myers got hit pretty bad, but I'm in Central Florida, so we got our fence knocked down, some debris, but other than that, we were pretty good. We lost power for like 4 or 5 days, but thankfully we were pretty fortunate in the storm. But I know a lot of the people on the coasts both got hit pretty bad.
Yeah. So we'd like to offer our prayers and positive thoughts to all those that were affected by this storm. And, talking of storms, I mean, again, like I mentioned, our police officer, he's kind of high up in the police department. So he is, he got called in from NEMO, and he's actually leaving the island to go to some meetings right now. So he apologized for not doing that, but we'll get him scheduled and all that set up for hopefully November. And then December, we're going to try to get somebody from the Belize Tourism Board to talk about the QRP, the Qualified Retirement Program, and answer all your questions about the retirement program. So again, I'm, you're a broker here. I have several offices in Belize, Placencia, Hopkins, and one coming probably December will be in Corozal, right across from the Atlantic Bank. And then also have Caribbean Capital Group, which is a asset management company where we have you invest and come alongside us, and we put deals together and pay you your dividends and cash flow from the products that we're investing in and putting together. And so what I did is I put these together for educational purposes to answer all your questions about Belize. Any question, no questions off limits. If I don't know it, then we'll get the answer and come back to you with it. Like there was an answer last week or a couple months ago that we are going to get to tonight. So again, if you have your questions, go ahead and throw them in the question and answer box, and we will go ahead and get it answered. I just read that the COVID updates, we have less than 57 cases in the country. So COVID is pretty much, everybody's done and tired of it. I know that. I know I am. We still are required to wear masks in certain buildings like the bank. I had to go into the water company the other day and they made me wear a mask. But
It's
other than
mostly
that,
government
government buildings.
buildings.
It is all what it is. And there's people that, wear a mask. I mean, we don't judge. I mean, it doesn't matter to me if you look stupid riding a golf cart alone wearing a mask, but no judging. I shouldn't have said that. So what else? So we have that's the COVID updates. No monkeypox in the country of Belize. I just read that from Yahoo News or Belize Breaking News. So none of that. So Serena, what were some of the questions that some of the people asked?
Yeah, so we had a few. Let me get to David. I believe he's on tonight. He wanted to submit a question. He said in his email, I'm considering Mexico, but I'm interested in Belize. Do you own property in Belize like the US, or is it a 50-year title that has to be renewed and put into a bank trust like in Mexico? He had a couple questions, so let's answer that one first.
Yeah, let's answer that one. So yes, in Mexico, within certain amount of space from a border, a land border or a water border, you have to put it in a fideicomiso, which is a bank trust. Could be 50 years, could be 99 years, but you cannot own title yourself. In Belize, it's not like that. Belize is fee simple. It's just like owning property in North America. So you take title to it in your name or in any entity that you want it to be in. If you have a US entity, a Canadian entity, or an IBC, an international business company, those do have to be registered here in the country of Belize. And we're going to be giving an update probably in about a month on the company's registry is kind of changing everything. So the Chapter 250 is basically a US LLC, what we would think of as a US LLC. We call them LTDs, but they are revamping everything and trying to go, not trying, they're going all digital and things like that. So actually, I think I'm creating 2 or 3 new companies. And then by the end of the month, no companies can be formed or registered for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks while they get the new system implemented. And then they get some training going and all that. And then they'll open back up toward the end of November. So you can own property in your name, or if you're wanting privacy protection or asset protection, then you would put it in an entity of some sort. Talk to your legal counsel about it. We're, again, not lawyers for sure. We're not tax people. We're just giving information, but happy to take a conversation offline or, on Zoom or something to go over it. But yeah, so what's the next question, Serena?
Awesome. He asked, what are the closing costs in Belize? I've seen somewhere that there is a 10% tax to the government upon closing and occupancy. Are there any other costs for ownership different than the US?
Yeah, another good question. There's a lot of information out there and some of it's wrong. So the current amount for closing right now is 8% goes to the government. Today is October 6th, 2022. So if you're listening to this, that's recorded, it's 8%. It used to be 10, then they dropped it to 5, and then a few years ago, it upped it to 10 or to 8. Sorry. If you are Belizean and you have a Belizean passport, you can get 5%. So when I buy property, I use my Belize passport, I pay 5%. If I use my US passport, it's 8%. So that kind of will tell you what it is. Now, the government does give you a $10,000 exemption. So I just bought a property in Corozal. It was $10,000 and I paid no stamp duty. So if it's $15,000, then you would pay 8% on 5,000. Now, if you're buying a house, the stamp duty is applied to the building and the land, not the furniture, fixture, appliances, things like that. So what we do is we break it out. So if you're paying $300,000 for a house, we can put, let's say it's $50,000 in furniture, fixture, appliances, a car, whatever. Then we put on the contract, it's $250 for the building and the land, and then 50 for the furniture, fixture, appliances, kind of like a bonus depreciation, if you will, that we have in the US. And so you do not pay the stamp duty on that. So you would pay stamp duty on the 250, then you get $10,000 off per title. So if the property has 2 titles, then you just have to assign a number to each title, and then you get 10,000 off of that. Did I kind of confuse y'all, or
just a little bit? Me at least.
Oh.
Hopefully got it.
So yeah, so basically it's 10,000 off any title, and then you pay 8%. Then there's anywhere between 1% to 2% legal fees, depending on if you use a closing agent, a lawyer, and who the closing agent is. We charge our clients 2% on average, sometimes less, depending on, if it's more expensive, then our closing agent will give us a discount. But our closing agents do not have US dollar accounts. So we hold the escrow, and we have fees for the escrow. And that helps pay for my lawyer to set it up. It helps pay for the monthly fees of the escrow account, my bookkeeper who reconciles that account on a monthly basis. And then it helps pay for some, in-house staff when we have to send, wires and things like that. So if you budget 10% total, then you're good to go. And that will be, it won't be more than that. Now, we do have a minimum. So our minimum is 1,800 right now. It's just getting ready to go up to 2,000. So if you're buying a $50,000 lot, it could be a minimum of $2,000. But I've seen lawyers charge 5,500, whatever, depending on the price. And what that gets you is a title search. It prepares all the transfer documents. It's your courier fees, your registration fees to the government, the bank fees for the charges for the wires. It helps pay for it. It goes into paying the exchange rate fee from US to Belize for the stamp duty, because most of the money never comes to the country except for the stamp duty and what we pay for taxes. So we have to pay, when you hire an agent, we're charged, or you are charged as an agent or as an owner, 12.5% on the commission. And so we pay that for you. And then we have our income tax that we pay, which is 15%. And then business tax we have to pay for the business side. So all that money comes to Belize, but the rest of it just stays outside the country unless we're forced to bring it here. Let's say if 2 Belizeans are selling property, then we get central bank approval and bring the money in. So I hope that answers those questions. If you have any other questions or you need clarification, just type it in the question and answer box. And I think we have one. So you mentioned something about accelerated depreciation, and my phone rang and I missed it. Can you repeat that? Yes. So Belize doesn't have accelerated depreciation like we have in the States. If you're an investor right now in the US and you buy a property, you can hire a cost segregation person. And what that person does is he works with an architect, a builder, and a CPA, and they depreciate the things like your light switches, your flooring, your landscaping, anything, your furniture, all that can get depreciated. This is the last year you get 100% of the depreciation. It's called bonus depreciation. After this year, it drops to 80%. So in Belize, what we do when you're buying a property like a condo, a house, apartment building, we kind of do the same thing, if you will. Now, if you're a US citizen and you're buying a building or a resort in Belize, it's worth it for you to hire a cost segregation person, fly them here, let them do it, and then you can do a bonus depreciation in the States. I can go through that some more if you want me to. So what we do here is to save you some money when you're buying a house or an apartment or whatever. We do we reduce the furniture, fixture, appliances, your cars, your vehicles, your boats, all that come with the sale. We take that out of the sale price and we put the number that you pay for your stamp duty in that column, because your stamp duty is only paid on the building and the land. Excuse me. So it's kind of a cost segregation or a bonus depreciation, but it saves you the 8%. Let's say you have $50,000 in furniture, fixture, and appliances at 8%. It's going to save you $4,000 US. Now, if you're buying a $100,000 house and you want us to put $50,000 in, furniture, fixture, and appliances, that's not going to fly with the government, and we can get in trouble. The government has the right to say, well, we don't believe that. This is what it should be, and you have to pay that. So we don't abuse it. I know there's people out there that do, but again, we will only do what's reasonable, because I live here. I have several businesses here. I have only one reputation. So I'm not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize my integrity and my ethics. So just for clarification, can you estimate the cost of buying a $300,000 property with those costs you outlined? Yeah, so a $300,000 property, if you do times 10%, would be $30,000 in closing cost. Now, how we can break that out is, let me just get some numbers out here. Okay, let's say it's $300,000, right? And I don't have a whiteboard, so let's say it's $50,000 in furniture, fixture, appliances. So that would be $250. Okay, remember you get $10,000 off, so you're paying stamp duty on $240. Everybody following me?
You want me to lie to you, or you want me to be honest? I'm sure David and our guests are with you. I'm slowly there. Do you want me to do a jingle here?
Okay, let me do it again just to make sure. 319, 200, and 6,000. Okay, so if I did my math correctly, we're paying 8% stamp duty on $240,000. So we backed out $50,000 for your furniture, fixture, and appliances. And then we subtracted another $10,000 for the exemption that the government gives you. So 8% on $240,000 is $19,200. Okay. 2% legal fee, which it shouldn't cost no more than 2%, even though the books in the law books in Belize say it should be between 2 and 4%. Most everybody charges 2%. That's $6,000. So your $300,000 property plus $19,200 in a one-time tax to the government and $6,000 in legal fees is $325,200. So that is your total cost out the door. Then there will be some miscellaneous fees depending on where you're at. Your property tax, we usually don't prorate property tax because it's so low. We've gone over that before, but just for tonight, My property tax for my house in Placencia is 27 Belize dollars a year. And my house in San Pedro is $161 a year, Belize. The San Pedro government has approved it to go to like $250 per bedroom. But it hasn't gone into effect in years, just because so many people cannot afford it. And the ones that can afford it, there's really not a system in place that can charge certain people one amount, certain people another amount. So they just leave it the way it is.
That's interesting. I
And
didn't
they
know
get you in
that.
other ways. Do what now?
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. But because San Pedro is higher, or San Pedro is higher because it's a town, but it also covers garbage. My house covers garbage for the $161 or $181. It covers the garbage for the year. They come twice a week. In Placencia, I pay for garbage, which is 22 Belize dollars a month, and they come to my house. If you're in the village, they come to your house. You don't have to put it out on the street or anything like that. If you're outside of the village, you have to bring it to the corner or to the street, and they just go down the street. So that's kind of your expenses for a $300,000 house. Let me know if you need me to kind of explain it again or go over it again. Insurance, we'll go over insurance. We have all perils insurance here. So there's no riders. So like there's no a flood policy, there's no earthquake policy, it's none of that. It's one policy that covers everything. That's why they call it all perils. Because we're in the Caribbean, it does cost a little bit more. But even though, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to, even though we're not likely to have a hurricane, there is that chance, right? And there's one brewing out there right now. It's too close to become a hurricane. It'll just be a tropical depression. But we can get some rain from it and maybe 30-mile-per-hour winds, which we have thunderstorms that do that. So a concrete house, you're going to be about 1 to 1.5% of the assessed value. So if you're buying that $300,000 house, let's say the lot is worth $100,000. So you're going to get insurance on $200,000. At 1.5%, that's about $3,000 US a year for insurance. If you have a wood house and the lot, that $300,000 house and a wood house, that's going to be about double, $4,000 to $5,000 a year. Could be a little bit more. They're not so far advanced to look at mixed houses. Like my house in Placencia is concrete on the bottom and it's hardy plank concrete board on the top. They still consider it wood, which I don't agree with, but who are you going to fight? So that's kind of your question or your answers on insurance. Belize is not in the top 52 countries or cities that have hurricanes. I have a slide that I give when I'm talking to groups, and Belize isn't even the top 60. It's just 52 would only fit on a 8x11 slide. And so we did that. It's places like the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, Nags Head, North Carolina, Florida, bunch of Florida is in there, Louisiana, places like that. Belize didn't even make the list. But again, not to say that it's not going to happen because we've had them. It's been a couple years, but we've had them. So what else, Serena? What's any other questions?
So we have a couple in the chat, but before we do those, we did have a couple in the email.
Okay.
So if an expat wanted to rent a small commercial space, not tourism or living occupancy, possibly a building for a local gift shop or a fruit stand, where could you find more information of that process?
Yeah, there's really not information for that process. You would have to be registered as a owner, and pay tax on that. We have the QRP people coming. Everything I'm told, it doesn't matter. You can be on the QRP and rent it out, and you just can't manage it, right? They don't want you to do no work. So, which a commercial property, there's really no managing. But if there's a repair, they need to repair it. But if it's in your house, I mean, you can fix your own house. Mm-hmm. So it's just, whatever you're comfortable doing, you could do it. If it's in, I think they're talking about Placencia because I talked to them. There's no regulatory body in Placencia. When I opened the gift shop in Placencia, I opened the gift shop. Mm-hmm. There's no approvals needed outside of, the banking approvals and all that to get the credit card machine. In San Pedro, that's a town, I had to get a trade license. I had to get approval from the town board. I had to have the health department. I had to have the fire department come and inspect it. Wow. And you had to pay a fee, So it's not a lot, but I have to get that renewed every year. Then you have to get the bank, to come and inspect that to make sure it's a legit business. So it's just different, right? There's no, what I would say, quote unquote, commercial real estate companies here, even though we can be Ringmax commercial. We don't put it out there, but there's no price per square foot. People say, this is my place. This is what I want. When I was looking for a place in Corozal, I'm not looking to buy right now up in that area for a lease space. I found everything from $700 to $2,000. Some at the $2,000 were smaller than the $700 one I got. So there's just no rhyme or reason. It's just what people want for it. And so it is what it is.
And then they kind of asked too, so how does that play into residency? Would it jeopardize their residency in any way?
No, not at all. But okay. I think when I was talking to them, if it's the same people, unless two different people have the same question, they were talking about the Qualified Retirement Program, the QRP. And so with the QRP, you can't work. But that's not working. It's not like they're opening a store. Mm-hmm. Like one of my old agents that used to work for me, her husband was on the QRP, but he would go out and do her signs and do her video droning. And that's illegal, mm-hmm. and that's, you can't do that. You have mm-hmm. to hire somebody to do that. But again, it's in his own house. If there's a repair that needs to be done, I don't see why he couldn't. But again, there's some people that are one way and there's some people that do totally opposite, And so if you're balanced about it, I think you'll be fine.
Awesome. And then we have a couple in the chat.
Okay, so David's asking, the 12% you mentioned earlier would be the commission to me when I become a seller in Belize. Well, no, not really. So the average commission in Belize is 8 to 10%. For the smaller properties, it's 10%. Majority of it, like in Placencia, we charge 8%, and other people charge in San Pedro, a lot of people charge 10%. And then that's split with the listing company and the selling company or agent. The reason why it's more here is because we don't have an MLS system. We don't have a website and the buyers like they do in the US or North America. We're an unregulated market, and we have to go out and spend tons of money to go market to North America, to Europe, to bring these buyers here. And so it costs more to list at. Plus we have a lot of fees as well. So what you're going to pay as a seller is around 8 to 10%. Won't be more than 10. Shouldn't be more than 10. And it shouldn't be less than 8%. If it's somebody bringing a lot of value, like I won't take a listing less than 8%. I've been here too long. I have too good of a reputation, and I do a lot for my clients. So I won't take less than 8. Now, what I will do is if I represent both the buyer and the seller, I will reduce the commission. And also, if it's a couple $1 million property, I'll, of course, reduce the commission. Not going to charge 8% on that. But then what happens is once you pay the 8%, you as the seller has to pay 12.5% general sales tax to the government of Belize because it's a goods and service tax. You're hiring somebody to do a service for you. And so the government charges for that. The properties I lease, I have to pay sales tax. I have to charge them sales tax, or they charge me sales tax for my art shops. If they're registered. If they're not registered, then they don't have to charge it. But we charge it because we're registered. And when we weren't registered, we got dinged for it. So we, again, try to do everything above board. So we declare everything that legally we have to declare. So Dave's like, so trash pickups more than property tax. Yes, it is. It is more than. And a lot of our trucks are donated from Taiwan. The trash truck in San Pedro and Placencia, I think, was donated from Taiwan. And you'll see a big Taiwan sticker on it, saying donated by Taiwan. But it's so cool how they come back and they come to my house in San Pedro. They come in the middle of the night because they can't halt traffic stopping and going. So you usually see them at 12, 1 o'clock at night, collecting trash, and they come twice a week. So a lot of the services I have here are much better than what I had in Johns Island, back in 2010 before I moved here. I moved here February 2010. So if you say January 2010, it was a lot better. So when we talk property sales, we're always talking in US dollars. If we talk anything else, we'll kind of say Belize dollars. But usually all real estate in Belize is talked in US dollars. It's sold in US dollars unless you're a Belizean or you're paying in Belize dollars. Like the lot I bought in Corzal last month, I wrote the contract in Belize dollars because that's how I was paying him. I wasn't paying him in US. So yeah, that's a good question. I would say most people are quoting Belize dollars when they're quoting everything else outside of real estate. So if you're talking to somebody at a gas station or a grocery store, they're talking Belize dollars.
Make sure you know in the menu, though, whenever you're ordering, though.
Correct. Because a lot of places won't put it, and they might charge a US. Now, if you're at a branded resort like Hilton or Marriott, then the prices will be in US. They won't even be in Belize dollars. I don't like that, but it is what it is. They're allowed to do that, but most other restaurants outside of that, usually it's in US dollars, Belize dollars. Belize. Sorry. Let me say that again. Cut.
Edit this out.
It's Belize dollars. And there should be something on the
bottom of the menu.
The bottom of the menu. Now, what's changing is we talked about that 12.5% goods
GST.
And service tax, the GST. What's happening now is they're charging that in addition to. So some restaurants will include it, some restaurants will not include it, and they'll charge it in addition to. So it has to be in writing somewhere. Otherwise, they can get in trouble. So most people will say prices are in Belize dollars, and under that, price includes GST or price excludes GST. And then you'll know you have to add 12.5% to that. What else? Any other questions?
None that I have so far.
All right. One I will ask, or one I will say, is tipping. What do you do for tipping? That's a big question I get a lot, and I don't think we cover it too often. I basically do around 10 to 15% on average in general. At a higher end restaurant, I'll do 15 to 18. Some restaurants will charge a service charge, which is like a 10% tip that goes to all the staff members. And usually I'll pay like 5% or something in addition to that. Usually if you have groups above 6 or 8 people, it's automatically 10%. But I think they work so hard for it, especially in large groups, that I would tip. I do in Belize usually leave a tip for housekeeping. I tip the baggage guys at when I'm at the hotel or when I'm at the airport and they're getting my bags. They take really good care of me. They always try to bump me on earlier flights. So I try to take care of them guys and gals myself. You know, by you know, I don't go excessive, right? But when I get a repair guy that comes to my house, I give him a Coke. You know, just little stuff like that they appreciate. At Mahogany Bay, we have 2 guard shacks, and you know, once a month I'll bring them a Coke. You know, and they appreciate that. They're just sitting out there in the hot sun and making, you know, chump change, you know, from what I would say, you know, less than 25, 30 bucks a day US. And they're working 8, 10-hour, 12-hour days. So I always just, you know, bring them a Coke and always wave and smile to them. And that goes a long way. So David's asking, is there good medical hospital care, dentist, vision close to the areas of Corozal, Emery's Key, and Placencia? I'd say yes, because those are all areas kind of outline the country, and majority of the medical is in Belmopan and Belize City. So Placencia, we have a dentist there. San Pedro, we have several dentists. Corozal, there's several dentists as well. There's private doctors and local doctors in all those areas. There's hospitals in all those areas. Well, Placencia doesn't have a hospital yet. It's being built. But we have Caring Hands, we have Dr. Alexis, and we have the Polyclinic, which is the little clinic, the local clinic. Eye care. Go ahead.
Corozal, you're a hop, skip, and a jump from Mexico, though. So you can definitely go there if, you know, what you find in the country you don't like. You can just go over to the border of Mexico and you can get any medical care there.
Yes. Yeah. Carranza is a private hospital right in Chetumal. There's Galeana, and I think that's how you pronounce it, in Cancun. Jenny Lee, who is our office manager in Placencia, she just had thyroid cancer, and she was in treatment there, and they cured it. They got it. They cut it out and did radiation, and she just went back for a checkup, and she's cancer free. And she was very happy there. And we might get her story and maybe talk to her about that. I think that would be good. And I think it cost $25,000, Belize.
For her care?
For her care. So under 15,000 US. And she had 2 surgeries, radiation treatment, hotel, tropic flights from Belize, from Placencia to Cozumel. It's not direct. You have to go through Belize City. Blood work, all that, I think was under 15,000.
Man.
So that would have probably cost maybe 50, 60,000 Belize in Belize, probably 25,000, 30,000 US. My taxi guy just had open heart surgery. He had 4 stents put in, and that was 60,000 Belize. So he had a 100% or two heart valves that were 90%, and one that was 100%, and one that was okay. So they kind of they went ahead and put in 4, and it cost them about 60 grand at a private hospital. So healthcare is available. Me personally, I prefer to go somewhere like Merida or Mexico, where they have millions and millions of people, not 400,000 people where they're doing maybe one every couple months. I want somebody doing open heart surgery every week, you know, and not in the US where it's going to cost an arm, a leg, and a kidney. So
your life, pretty much.
Yes. So anyways, so yeah, there's
and
also
then you were going to say vision care too. Vision care.
Yeah, there is a doctor that does cataracts here. Again, me personally, I'm not going to get my eyes done here. I had my eyes done in Boulder. Boulder Vision did my LASIK. I need to do it again, which I'll probably go somewhere in Dallas. But a doctor, like a vision vision specialist, like an optometrist, we have Dr. Hagar is who I used before I had LASIK. Your mom used him.
I did too.
I think you did too, right? And man, it's been a while, but don't quote me on it. But I think it was like maybe 115 Belize for the eye test. So it'd be like about 55 US. And then the glasses can be whatever, right? I mean, if you go transitional, I mean, they have no frames, they have framed. I mean, it could go, you know, $200-300 Belize to $600-700 Belize for a pair. So it just depends on what you want, Ray-Ban or whatever. But they can do everything there. Normally, if they can't do it, if it's a hard prescription, they send it to Mexico to do it. But again, like Serena said, Mexico is a hop, skip, and a jump. You can fly into Corozal, and it cost me 90 Belize dollars to go, excuse me, from the boat. We took the boat into Corozal, and from the boat, we had a taxi guy take us through the border to the hotel in Chetumal. And cost me 90 Belize dollars. And then from there, cabs are so inexpensive there. So we just did cabs. Excuse me. And so you could, I mean, everything's cheaper in Mexico. So I would do it over there personally. So Dave's asking, so as a resident of Belize, if I go to Mexico for hospital needs, that would be completely out of pocket. No Belizean insurance would apply. No, you're not dominating. Keep them coming. You're the only one asking questions. Correct. There is, well, it's yes and no. We did have an insurance lady on All Access Belize, my insurance lady, and we answered a lot of questions like that. There is insurance that you can get that covers you in Belize, Mexico, and Guatemala. So you can go to any of those areas and your insurance will cover you there. Stupid low deductible. Like, I think the highest deductible they have is like 1,500 Belize. because I tried to get like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 Belize dollars, but they don't offer it. And if you send me an email, I can send you the quote that I got from her. And what it does is it covers you like a 75-25 or a 70-30 in the US. And there's also expat insurance places in the US that cover you when you're an expat here. So I have several people that can do that if you're interested. But again, what I do is I'm not an insurance person. I don't like insurance. I know we need it and it's a useful tool, but I personally prefer to have like a major medical policy, and then for everything else, just pay out of pocket. That way I can invest that money somewhere in a illiquid, where something that's liquid, where I can, sell it or, whatever, and get cash to pay for something, or take a loan out against that asset to pay for something. But I'm not interested in paying, $10,000, $15,000 a year. I think mine was like 850 times 12. Yeah, like 15,000 Belize dollars a year, for insurance that I hardly ever use. I might use maybe a couple $100 a year, So if I use $200 a year, I just took $10,000 and bought a lot in Corozal. Somebody that needed some cash, and I bought it, So I personally have one house with insurance and one house without insurance. And then whatever it charges me, I kind of put that money in the bank and let it build up, and then I buy an asset with it and then do it all over again. And that way, if something happens, I have the money available to me to fix whatever needs to be fixed. So I mean, again, it all depends on what you want in your investment or what you can tolerate in your investment. If you like, there's nothing wrong to have all the insurance and have whatever you want. There is nothing wrong with that. It's not right or wrong. Buying in Placencia or San Pedro, there is no right or wrong answer. It's just up to you. Let nobody tell you you have to buy in this area. It's all personal preference. I can tell you that San Pedro is the #1 tourist destination in the country, and that is true. I can tell you that it's the busiest island. It's got the highest appreciation, which is probably true. But I also have properties in Placencia that are doing just as well as some in San Pedro, if not maybe a little better. So we can find you anything, anywhere. It just depends on where you want to be. If you're strictly ROI, then we can talk about that. But if it's anything like a partial ROI and partial lifestyle investment, something to make memories forever with your family, then, then there might be some choosing on what you want, where you want. I think there's pros and cons of living in all places. I definitely get tired of some of the traffic in San Pedro. I get tired of, getting a gringo tax. My partner, she'll go in and ask for a price for something, and they'll give her a price. She's from Nicaragua, so she looks Belizean or she looks Spanish. They'll give her a price. I'll go in and ask for a price, and it'll be totally different. And so I get tired of that. And it happens a lot of places, not just San Pedro, but I don't seem to get that in Placencia. But maybe
I think you've been there a lot longer, though.
That's true. That's true. And Placencia is smaller and people know me. Whereas San Pedro, I've only been, 5 years off and on, because I'm still back and forth.
Right.
So, well, this has been good. Again, if you joined late, I apologize for the police officer not coming on today. He had a meeting with Nemo, and he was being boated off the island at about 5, Serena? 5:30?
Yeah, 5:30.
Good. So we'll have them on next month or December, whenever it's convenient for him. And then whoever we don't have, we'll have somebody from the Belize Tourism Board talking about tourism and things like that. So David popped up. What's the price range of oceanfront property in the 3 areas? Either condo or single family. That's kind of a hard question. Corozal, you can get a lot in Corozal for about $150,000 on the Corozal Bay. It's not really going to be oceanfront unless you're, Black Orchid, not Black Orchid or Wild Orchid, Orchid Bay or Sartaneja or something like that. Houses, you can get 300,000-400,000. We have one that's like 500,000. I think it's a 4 or 5 bedroom in Corozal. I think it has a swimming pool, or it has room for a pool, but it's on the ocean. Placencia, you're going to pay now roughly 300 low end for a 2-bedroom condo at like Umaya, all the way up to multi-million dollars. Average house price is going to be around $1 million on the ocean. So prices have gone up. San Pedro, that's the same. I mean, you can get a 1-bedroom on the ocean for 350, but then, an older unit, but then a house is going to cost you around $1 million. But you could get something like at Cocoa Beach, or Pelican Reef or something like that for, probably in the 500, 600 range. And then Lagoon side or West Coast side in San Pedro would be cheaper, and probably be a little nicer because of the sargassum. The sargassum has been bad this year, and I don't see it getting any better. So right now it's beautiful. I think Monday we were driving and we took our son, and it was so pretty. We just stopped and let him play in the water. It was so crystal clear and everything. So it's really beautiful right now, weather wise.
I don't know if we've talked about this on the air, but I know for me personally, I always thought that like oceanfront, I mean, of course it's personal preference, right? But, oceanfront is something that I always thought that was important to me until we moved to the lagoon side and the sunsets. I'm not a person that's going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So sunsets, you get to see those every night. There's nothing beats them on the lagoon. And fortunately, at least in Placencia, I can't speak for Corozal, you'll have to say, but I mean, you can walk to the beach. I mean, it's right across the street. So even if it's not oceanfront, you're still going to be very close to it. And you could pay a fraction of the price. So,
yeah. And the maintenance on an oceanfront property is a lot worse than, it's even bad on where we're at in Placencia. We're on a canal. We're not even on the lagoon, but they're really bad. And even the guy Doran that does our AC units, he's on the ocean and he wants to move to the lagoon side because he's a boater now. So he wants to keep his boat there, and he keeps his boat in his dock. So, but he wants to, move. But, the sunrises. I mean, I've seen some pretty sunrises through pictures because I'm never up.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I was about to call you out if you said I've seen some sunrises. No.
I know. Right before this, we had a beautiful sunset tonight. So I was thinking maybe do like about a little bit earlier, all access Belize, and then have a nice, be out at the beach club or on the bay club and see the sunset. So Dave, the sargassum is like a seaweed. It started in Africa somewhere, I think they were growing it, I think. And I wrote an article about it. It should be on the website, CaribbeanCapitalGroup.com. I think they grew it to soak up some of the oil from the oil spill back in the Gulf. And the warm water has just spread it. And it comes in patches. And the fish, it's good for the fish because the fish kind of hide under it. So they're protected from birds and things like that. But the problem is the wind brings it. And when it comes on shore and it dries out, it smells horrible. It puts off a methane gas. And it gets to the point where you smell it everywhere, just driving around. Some people can't tolerate it. Mahogany Bay is not on the ocean. We're on canals for more like boats. And we get a lot of people that come stay with us because we don't smell it because we're not on the ocean. And our beach club is on the West Coast side, so we don't have it. But you can, we're trying, we're working. It's not a Belize problem. It's a Florida problem. It's a Mexico problem. It's a problem all over the Caribbean. And it comes in sheets like the size of a state, if you will, like Connecticut or Rhode Island or something. And it's just, they're trying to figure out how to harvest it before it gets here. So where again is the place where Serena mentioned where you can walk across the street to the beach? Pretty much anywhere in Placencia and Ambergris Caye you can. Like I'm literally like in San Pedro. I'm kind of toward the south, and I'm kind of in the middle of the island, and I'm about a 4 or 5 minute walk to the ocean. In Placencia, we're pretty much right in the middle. Well, we're on the lagoon side, but we're pretty much really like a 4 minute walk to the ocean. There's some wide areas in Placencia, like if you're in some areas of Maya Beach, if you're on the lagoon, then it's going to be like a 10, 15 minute walk. But pretty much anywhere in Placencia or Ambergris Caye, you're going to be within walking distance. Even at Mahogany Bay, we're not on the ocean, but within 5 minutes, 10-minute walk, I'm on the ocean, or 2-3 minute golf cart ride. So you're pretty much close to any ocean access.
What about Corozal?
So Corozal, well, Corozal is mainland. And Corozal and Punta Gorda, they're not really beach. They're more rocky areas, but there are places that are sandy where you can swim. But it's more on the Corozal Bay, and they're nice. But depending on where you're at in Corozal, it could be a little ride. Like if you're in Ranchito area, you're 15-minute drive to the ocean. If you're in Consejo Shores, then you're probably like, let's say you're on the golf course in Consejo Shores. You're literally a 5-minute walk to the ocean. Some of the holes, you probably can see the ocean between the houses. So it just kind of depends on, where you're at. So, but there's really no place that you're not too close from any water. So guys, thank you for asking your questions. Thank you for joining us for October's edition of All Access. When's our next one, Serena? November.
I just put the link in the chat to register. The next one is November 3rd at 6 p.m. Belize time, so 7 p.m. Central.
Okay, so we might change that a little bit if we're going to do, unless I'm going to be in Placencia, then it doesn't matter. But it was a beautiful sunset today. It would have been nice for everybody to see out there. Again, if you have any questions on Belize, reach out to me and I'll get you to one of my agents in the area. I'm trying to do more educational stuff like this and going to classes and reading up on not reading up, but just going out and talking about Belize. And then I'm working on my properties, my investments, and my Caribbean Capital Group. So I'm kind of slowing down a little bit on the real estate side, but I still am active. I still work with certain clients that really want me to work with them. But I usually bring along some of my team members to help, just because I never know when I'm going to be in certain areas. But definitely, you don't have to work with us. Just work with somebody that you trust, somebody that will show you anybody's property. It doesn't matter if it's listed with me or with Century 21 or Keller Williams. You need to find an agent that will show you all property, not just their property, because they're not doing you a good service. Because I know some agents that they'll be in one condo complex, there'll be 2 different listings from 2 different companies, and this agent will not show this agent, and this property is even cheaper, and it's the same property. So you want to make sure that you're working with somebody that does what's best for you, somebody that wants to help educate you on what it takes on buying here, moving here, living here, things like that. I always believe the country sells itself, and we'll find you something no matter where you're at. We just need to educate you first. So with that, we will say good night, and hope everyone is good, and see you next month. If you enjoyed this, tell a couple of your friends so they can come alongside and get educated about the great country of Belize. Thank you, Serena.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.